Hey everybody. A little late to the party, but I do want to discuss not necessarily just Cleopatra, but why some of us got to that point where we were thinking Cleopatra was black or at least African or something. This all goes back, the blackwashing of certain historical characters goes all the way back to the mid 1980s. It really got its start, the idea of it got its start basically after the 60s into the 70s, where before the 70s black folks were doing pretty well, all things considered. Just look at some of the pictures from the civil rights movement. People are walking around in their Sunday best going to protests. How could you afford Sunday best if you were all poor and miserable and segregated? Bit of a hint there. So what actually happened was that by the time you reached 1982, 83, really 1985, because this is what I can remember most directly, we had an increase in black on black crime, black poverty, black joblessness, out of wedlock marriage, especially amongst teenagers. All of these things were going on. So the few black academics and intellectuals were like, well, we have to find something to prop us up, to make us feel better about ourselves, to change our discourse, to give us an example of being better. Well, instead of looking at grandparents and people within the black community who were still alive, who were prosperous, and even some who were dead who were prosperous in the past, we decided we're going to go back to Africa. We're going to go hunting for truth and reconciliation in Africa, because anything in America just wasn't kosher enough. It just wasn't cool enough. So some intellectuals, black intellectuals and academics, and a bunch of black entertainers, like Sinbad the comic, Denzel Washington, and a few others went to Africa. And they found there wasn't much there. But they couldn't come back empty-handed. Oh, no. No. We can't come back empty-handed. So we'll come back with a bunch of bullshit. Those of you who are around my age and older, 40s on up, you'll remember the dashikis, the bright yellow cloth tunic stuff, and the hats, and all of that stuff that had the Pan-African flag on it and all it, and the South African and the Black Revolution flag on it, all that stuff. That was never black. That wasn't even Egyptian. But we somehow claimed that. And part of the reason we claimed it is because some intellectuals looked up history and said, oh, there were these people called the Nubians who ruled over Egypt, and they were from the Sudan and some other places. Oh, they were black. So that means we was kings. Yeah, for about 100 years. And that was, I think, long after Cleopatra had kicked the bucket. But we took that and we come running back to America. Cleopatra is black, guys. Look, Nubians, Nubian princess, Nubian queen, Nubian king. Here's the thing about that. Even let's say the Nubians ruled for 1,000 years in Egypt. That doesn't mean anything for everybody down in the lower part of Africa. You got to remember, all of our quote-unquote slave heritage was sub-Saharan. It wasn't northeastern Africa. So you're still not getting anywhere. But when the majority of your populace or your race is ignorant, they'll believe anything. When they're desperate to feel that they have some type of relevance, especially historically, they'll take anything you give them. Especially when they don't know how to look it up and find it. The internet wasn't around back then. So nobody could tell whether this was a lie or a truth or not. So we bought it all hook, line, and sinker. We sold the dashikis to one another, the Afro pit combs with the big black fist on them and all that mess. We sold ourselves a delusion that really didn't help us. So we was kings in Africa 3,000 years ago. That ain't gonna stop one brother from selling drugs on the street corner. They ain't gonna keep one boy in school. Ain't gonna stop one little girl from getting pregnant. It's not gonna stop the black on black crime. It didn't do the blackwashing of certain historical figures back then. Had no purpose because it didn't do anything. But the delusion that it gave us is, oh, we have power, or we had power. And then the white man somehow magically swooped in and took it all away. No, we destroyed ourselves. We're like every other race on earth. We had something and then we went to war with ourselves over something and ended up trashing ourselves. So there's just nothing there. And it's annoying and frustrating because I can remember as a kid, I didn't need all of this racial validation, this blackwashing to feel good about myself. And I think the reason why is because I had two parents in the home and I knew my family's history. My father went out of his way ever since I was old enough to understand to explain my family's history to me, his side of the family. My mother would explain hers. So I knew where I came from. My dad's side of the family, mostly Jamaican. They weren't slaves. My mom's side of the family, yeah, they were slaves. But a strong history of black men and black women on my mama's side of the family. My grandparents were middle class. Back in the 40s and the 30s, they were middle class. They built their own homes. And they looked good. They worked in the textile mills. My grandparents were cool. So I have that to look at. My parents were middle class. I have that to look at. I have that inspiration. But I know a lot of black people who they have no idea what their family history is. Other than, well, we were slaves a couple hundred years ago, I think. Well, that's great. Can you tell me what happened in the last 50 with your family? Man, oh no. What the heck? You never asked your mother about your grandparents or anything? Or your great-grandparents? It was all just, I have no history. So therefore, whose fault is that? That's yours. That's not the white man's. But we've gone on with this blackwashing for years. And all we've created from it is a couple of clothing lines. Tommy Hilfiger and FUBU. FUBU stands for us, by us. But if you really look at FUBU, it's run by white people. Tommy Hilfiger is started up by white people, run by white people. We just claimed it for ourselves. Oh yeah, Tommy Hilfiger is for black people. And the guy running it is a white gay dude. Who I think either he was killed by somebody recently or somebody killed him. I don't know. Or he killed somebody. One way or the other. I think he went the John DuPont route. But we keep doing this. And part of it, and it's went from we need our own black culture, which is part of the reason why they did this. Because the intellectuals of that time said, oh, we need history so we can have culture. You already have a culture. If you're living here, you were born and living here, born and raised in America, you've got American culture. Yeah, there are some bad bits for black folks, but guess what? You're still part of this culture. Quit looking for another culture to bring over. And the best you can do is a Snoop Dogg song from the 90s. Bitches, hoes, and drugs, and capping people. Because that's eventually what we developed in the 90s. That became our subculture / culture. Gangsta rap. When you're so hungry for culture, for something to define you as greatness, you'll take anything. We've developed our greatness now through our movie stars, our singers and rappers, just anything that is sports ball players. Just anything that looks like, oh, all you got to do is pull off one thing and now all of a sudden you're rich and powerful. I like Denzel Washington a lot, but I don't look to him as an example of black greatness. I look at Thomas Sowell. E.D. Du Bois. I look at these people who, my parents, my grandparents. That's who I look to. I don't need shining examples of melanin on my TV screen to make me feel good about myself. It's all about more representation. What representation black person on the television screen going to make you feel better about your own existence? If your existence is misery and suffering, it doesn't matter how many black people or white people or fancy rich people you put on a television screen. If you miserable, impoverished, sickly, being abused, that's not going to somehow, seeing that on the screen isn't going to inspire you to do better. Now you have that small number of people who might be going through those times, those terrible times, and they see that on the television screen. Yes, I can make it through because Denzel is playing bad cop on Training Day. Huh? Because Will Smith won an award or did something in a movie. Those numbers are so small. It's really not worth mentioning. It really isn't. But we continue down this path. We need representation. We need young black people to see more black people on TV. No. I don't want to see more young black people I don't want to see more black people on TV. If you want to show me black people on TV, show me black people graduating from high school. Show me black people graduating from college. Show me black doctors. Show me black generals. Show me black people who have worked hard and succeeded in everything else other than dribbling or carrying, running with a ball, singing and rapping and acting. Show me that. Why can't you show me that, black people? It's not the white people's responsibility anymore. We have access to television. We have access to the internet. We have BET, OWN. Why aren't we showing more of that to ourselves? Because that requires hard work. We'd rather show you magical black Cleopatra than show you the guy who works 10 to 15 hours a day to start up his own business and running it. I was watching something on Instagram a few days ago. It was a video of a young black man. He got dreads. He's 18 years old, graduated from high school. He works about 10 plus hours a day running his own business. He not only does landscaping, but he knows how to operate earth movers and stuff like that. He basically working 3 jobs, but he's making over $70,000 a year now at 18. That's inspirational. I sent that video to my nephew, who's about to graduate from college as an economist. And he basically came from a single parent home, due to his aunt, basically, his mom, basically, but, I just don't understand this. You can blackwash Cleopatra, Marco Polo, half of the historical figures of the past, and it won't change one goddamn thing for black people. It won't. We won't get any better. And especially when it's some Iranian chick who's running the current Netflix special of Cleopatra. It's an Iranian chick. She's not even black. She's the showrunner and the director. Most of the other folks dealing with the show are white. The only other person whose name can get attached to it that's actually black and prominent is Jada Pinkett Smith. And nobody likes Jada Pinkett Smith. She is the penultimate of the worst type of black woman right now. Nobody likes her. She is an adulterous slut who cucks her husband. Nobody likes a woman like that. Nobody likes a woman like that. You can only attach her name to something if you that desperate for fucking clout. Oh yeah, Jada Pinkett Smith helped fund this thing. No, her husband helped fund it because Jada Pinkett Smith ain't got a goddamn dime to her fucking name. No, she doesn't. She broke as fuck. She ain't worked in years. So she using her husband's money. Well, let me go ahead and get off here. Hard Bastard's about to come on. And I think I've said my piece. For the too long, didn't want to watch the whole video crowd. The whole thing about blackwashing Cleopatra and so many other characters in history comes from a desperate need of self-recognition for being black. Historical recognition of being black. That's really all it comes from. And it's a misplaced need. All right, everybody, have a good day. Have a blessed day. I'm going to try to put out some more videos. I keep getting distracted by a whole bunch of other things. Everybody take care. Bye-bye.